Hello everyone, and welcome to our gardening community. I'm delighted you've joined me today for a deep dive into 7 powerhouse plants that will naturally choke out weeds and transform your garden into a lush, low-maintenance paradise. Whether you're battling persistent dandelions invading your lawn or crabgrass popping up in your flower beds, this video will equip you with the knowledge to harness nature's defenses. We'll cover each plant's unique strategies for weed suppression, precise planting and care instructions, propagation tips, and even a few fascinating historical and ecological tidbits to enrich your gardening journey. So grab your favorite garden gloves, settle in with a cup of tea, and let's dig into these remarkable species together. Today's topic is 7 powerful plants that naturally stop weeds. Transform your garden today. Over the next 20 to 30 minutes, we'll explore how lavender, sweet alyssum, creeping jenny, mint, daylilies, hostas, and ferns can reduce your weeding workload by up to 80% when used strategically. I'll share timing guidelines, from spring planting windows to autumn divisions, to help you integrate these plants into your landscaping schedule. You'll learn about soil preparation, companion planting, watering regimes, pest management, and even creative design ideas, like layering height and color for both functionality and beauty. By the end of this video, you'll not only know which plants to choose but how to create a year-round weed-resistant tapestry that supports pollinators, conserves moisture, and elevates your garden's overall health. Ready to get your hands dirty? Let's begin with our first contender. Lavender is more than just a fragrant flower, it's a formidable living mulch. When planted in dense rows or mounded in gentle drifts, its silvery green foliage casts sufficient shade to starve out many weed seedlings before they ever break the soil surface. Lavender also releases volatile aromatic oils from its leaves, which studies have shown can moderately inhibit the germination of certain weed seeds. In borders, rock gardens, or edging beds, lavender forms a waist-high barrier that weeds struggle to penetrate, all while rewarding you with soft purple blooms, a soothing scent, and a bounty of pollinator activity. To grow lavender successfully, start with at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight daily. Amend your soil with coarse sand or fine gravel if drainage is poor. Lavender detests wet feet. Test your soil pH and, if it's below 6.5, incorporate dolomitic lime to raise alkalinity. When planting, space each shrub about 18 to 24 inches apart, allowing air to circulate and minimizing fungal issues. For propagation, you can start from seed in cool spring temperatures, but most gardeners prefer woody cuttings taken in midsummer. These root reliably in a mixture of peat and perlite. Water young plants sparingly, letting the top inch of soil dry out between waterings. Once established, lavender is drought-tolerant and performs best with minimal supplemental water. Feed annually in early spring with a balanced, low-nitrogen fertilizer to encourage solid stem development and robust bloom production. Deadhead spent flowers midsummer to prompt a second wave of blooms, and prune lightly after the first autumn frost to maintain a compact, tidy shape. In colder climates, apply a light mulch of straw over the root zone to protect against deep freezes. Lavender is remarkably pest-resistant, but watch for root rot if conditions are overly humid. To avoid overcrowding, divide woody clumps every 3 to 5 years by cutting back 1/3 of the oldest stems. Companion plants such as thyme, sage, and rosemary thrive alongside lavender, creating a Mediterranean-style palette that crowds weeds and delights the senses. A fun fact, the word lavender comes from the Latin lavare, meaning to wash, because the Romans used lavender both in bathing and to scent clothing. Plant lavender at the front of borders or along pathways to enjoy both its ornamental appeal and its weed-defying prowess every time you step outside. Next up is sweet alyssum. a charming annual ground cover known for its delicate clusters of tiny blooms and exceptional low-growing habit. Reaching only 3 to 6 inches tall but spreading up to 18 inches wide, sweet alyssum forms a living carpet that blocks sunlight from reaching weed seeds and young seedlings, effectively smothering them before they can establish roots. Its sweet, honeyed fragrance wafts through the garden, inviting beneficial hoverflies, lacewings, and parasitic wasps that help control aphids and other pests. Sow sweet alyssum seeds directly in early spring, as soon as the soil is workable. Scatter seeds thinly over prepared soil and gently press them into the surface, no need to bury them deeply. Keep the seedbed consistently moist with light, frequent waterings until germination appears, typically within 7 to 10 days. Sweet alyssum tolerates average garden soil but performs best when enriched with compost or aged manure. For continuous bloom, deadhead heavily every 2 to 3 weeks, or simply mow the spent growth lightly if you prefer a manicured edge. Alyssum thrives in full sun to part shade. In regions with hot summers, provide afternoon shade or plant along the north side of taller shrubs to prevent flower scorch. Because sweet alyssum self-seeds readily, allow some blossoms to set seed late in the season for natural reseeding next spring. If the spread becomes too vigorous, thin the seedlings by hand to maintain borders or container plantings. Alyssum also performs beautifully in window boxes, hanging baskets, and as underplanting for taller perennials, where its low habit keeps weeds at bay without obstructing larger plants. For an extra special effect, interplant alyssum with cool season bulbs such as tulips or daffodils, when bulbs die back. The carpet of white blooms will seamlessly fill the void. Sweet alyssum is deer-resistant and drought-tolerant once established, and in mild climates, it can bloom year-round. As a charming finishing touch, place alyssum around stepping stones or along garden paths. You'll love the scent beneath your feet, and the dense foliage will prevent weeds from creeping between cracks. Creeping Jenny, also known as moneywort, earns its nickname from hundreds of coin-shaped leaves that spread vigorously via stolons. Its chartreuse foliage brightens shady or part-sun areas and, thanks to its rapid coverage, smothers weeds by denying them light and space. While creeping Jenny can become invasive in wetter climates. Its spreadability is exactly what makes it an outstanding natural weed suppressant, when properly contained. To harness creeping Jenny without letting it run wild, plant it in a shallow container or raised bed with edging at least 6 inches deep to block underground runners. Choose a site with moist, well-drained soil enriched with organic matter. Creeping Jenny thrives in damp conditions but can handle occasional dry spells. Space divisions of root runners or individual plants about 12 to 18 inches apart to achieve quick coverage in a single growing season. Maintain creeping Jenny by trimming back runners that attempt to escape the designated area, using garden shears to keep the foliage within bounds. In early spring, shear off old foliage to encourage fresh, vibrant growth, and apply a light mulch of compost to refresh soil nutrients. Fertilize monthly with a balanced, water-soluble fertilizer during the active growing season if you want a more robust ground cover, though many gardeners let it flourish on minimal inputs. An interesting piece of folklore claims creeping Jenny brings prosperity thanks to its money-shaped leaves. It also produces small yellow flowers in late spring that attract bees. For sloped or erosion-prone areas, creeping Jenny's roots help stabilize soil while keeping weeds at bay, a dual benefit many gardeners appreciate. If you ever need to remove a section, simply pull runners back to the main patch and replant elsewhere or compost the cuttings for a touch of garden alchemy. Now let's discuss mint, one of the most vigorous growers in any herb garden. Beloved for its aromatic leaves used in cooking, beverages, and teas, mint's aggressive underground rhizomes also make it an outstanding living mulch that outcompetes weeds for water, nutrients, and sunlight. When grown in a dedicated container or bordered bed, mint forms a thick, fragrant carpet that deters weeds from establishing. To cultivate mint responsibly, sink a durable container at least 8 inches deep into the ground or use a wide pot. This barrier prevents runners from escaping into unintended areas. Mint prefers part shade in hot summer regions and full sun in cooler climates, requiring about 4 to 6 hours of light daily. Amend the soil with plenty of compost or aged manure before planting, as mint is a heavy feeder that appreciates nutrient-rich ground. Water mint regularly to keep the soil evenly moist but not waterlogged. Overwatering can lead to root issues, while drought stress causes wilting and slower growth. Harvest leaves frequently to promote bushy, compact growth. Pinch off flowering heads if your goal is culinary use, as flowers redirect energy away from leaf production. In autumn, cut back mint to a few inches above the crown to encourage fresh spring shoots, and divide any overcrowded pots every 2 to 3 years to rejuvenate the planting. Mint plays well with many other garden herbs as basil, parsley, and cilantro, but can overwhelm less vigorous neighbors, so keep attentiveness at the forefront. An added benefit, mint repels certain garden pests, including ants and mice, further protecting your borders. Legend holds that ancient Romans used mint in their wine, sauces, and even toothpaste, so by planting mint, you invite a piece of culinary history into your yard while effectively suppressing weeds beneath its canopy. Before we move on to our next plant, if you're finding these natural weed-fighting strategies helpful, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. By subscribing, you'll gain access to our upcoming video series on soil health boosters, companion planting guides, and seasonal pruning tutorials, everything you need to create a thriving, eco-friendly garden. Now, let's continue with our next green champion. Daylilies are celebrated for their spectacular blooms, ease of care, and exceptional clumping habit, which makes them a superior weed deterrent. Each clump of strap-shaped leaves rises from a central crown, forming a dense mound that blocks light from reaching emerging weed seedlings. With bloom stalks that unfold new flowers daily, daylilies reward you with extended color displays while quietly establishing an effective ground barrier. Plant daylilies in full sun to part shade. Most cultivars need at least 6 hours of direct sunlight for optimal flowering. Prepare the bed by incorporating compost or well-rotted manure to improve soil structure and fertility. Ensure the soil drains well. Waterlogged roots can lead to crown rot. Place crowns at the soil surface, spacing clumps 18 to 24 inches apart based on the expected mature width of each variety. After planting, water deeply once per week during dry spells and apply a balanced slow-release fertilizer in early spring as growth begins. Deadhead spent blooms to encourage additional flowering and to keep the display tidy. Divide clumps every 3 to 5 years in spring or late summer to maintain vigor. Simply lift the crown, tease apart sections with several fan leaves, and replant divisions in newly prepared soil. Daylilies come in thousands of hybrid varieties, spanning every hue from pale pastels to vivid crimsons and bicolors. Some specialty groups, like spider, double, and evening-scented daylilies, offer unique shapes and fragrances that attract hummingbirds and night-flying pollinators. A historical note, daylily cultivation dates back over 1,000 years in Asia, where the plant was valued both ornamentally and as a food source. By mass planting daylilies in borders or drifts, you'll enjoy months of color and dramatically fewer weeds disrupting your vision. Hostas are shade-loving perennials famed for their bold, architectural foliage that ranges in size from a few inches to multi-foot giants. Their large leaves overlap to form an impenetrable canopy over the soil, preventing light from germinating most weed seeds in shaded environments. Whether you choose chartreuse-edged varieties or deep blue-green forms, hostas provide a lush carpet that thrives under trees. Along north-facing walls, or in any part shade garden. Before planting hostas, prepare the soil by digging in generous quantities of organic matter, leaf mold, compost, or well-aged manure, to mimic the rich, humusy soil of their native woodlands. Place plants so that the growing crown sits at or slightly above the soil surface, spacing them 18 to 24 inches apart depending on the mature spread. Hostas appreciate consistent moisture. Apply 2 inches of organic mulch to conserve water and suppress weeds, and water deeply during dry periods. Division is the primary maintenance task for hostas. Every 4 to 6 years, when a clump becomes congested or the center dies out, lift the entire plant in early spring just as shoots begin to emerge. Use a sharp spade to split the clump into sections, each with at least 2 or 3 eyes, then replant divisions immediately. Hostas are largely pest-resistant but can attract slugs. Control these with organic slug pellets, diatomaceous earth barriers, or copper tape around container rims. Hostas are also deer-resistant when planted en masse, since deer tend to avoid large clumps of thick foliage. Consider underplanting with spring bulbs like snowdrops or bluebells. The bulbs bloom early and die back before hosta leaves unfurl, creating seasonal interest and a layered effect that further crowds out weeds. A fun fact: in some parts of Asia, young hosta shoots are harvested as a seasonal vegetable much like asparagus. By incorporating hostas into your shaded borders, you'll achieve a virtually weed-free understory and a harmonious, textural contrast throughout the year. Finally, let's explore ferns, ancient plants that thrived long before flowering species evolved. Varieties like autumn fern, Japanese painted fern, and lady fern add delicate, feathery fronds that arch gracefully over the soil, forming a fine-textured carpet that blocks light and suppresses weed growth. Ferns excel in damp, shaded sites where many weeds struggle to survive, making them ideal for woodland gardens, rain gardens, and north-facing slopes. To plant ferns, choose a location with part to full shade and consistently moist, well-drained soil high in organic matter. Dig a hole as deep as the root ball and twice as wide, mixing in compost or leaf mold to enrich the backfill. Position the fern at the same depth it grew in its container, firm the soil gently, and water thoroughly. Space ferns according to their mature size, typically 18 to 24 inches apart, to allow fronds to unfurl without crowding. Ferns require minimal maintenance. In early spring, remove old, tattered fronds by cutting them off at the base to make room for new growth. Apply an inch or 2 of mulch, ideally shredded leaves, to conserve moisture and gradually enrich the soil as it breaks down. In regions prone to dry summers, provide supplemental water during heat waves and avoid dry winds that can desiccate fronds. Ferns reproduce via spores, but most gardeners propagate them by division every 5 to 7 years. In early spring, lift and split the crown into sections to create new plants and rejuvenate the original clump. Beyond their weed-suppressing prowess, ferns add a timeless, primordial ambience to your garden, an echo of ancient forests. They pair beautifully with hostas, astilbes, and heuchera, creating layered textures and continuous leaf interest from spring through autumn. Incorporate ferns along shaded pathways or at the base of stone walls, and you'll enjoy a serene, weed-free understory that invites exploration and quiet reflection. We've now covered all 7 of our natural weed suppressors: lavender, sweet alyssum, creeping jenny, mint, daylilies, hostas, and ferns. Each brings its own unique style and strengths to the garden, from sun-loving shrubs to shade-tolerant perennials. By strategically planting these species in layers, tall in back, mid-height in the center, and ground covers in front, you can significantly reduce the time you spend weeding while enjoying a more beautiful, biodiversity-rich landscape. Thank you so much for watching and sticking with me through every tip and technique. I hope you're feeling inspired to introduce one or more of these plants into your own garden. Let me know in the comments which species you're most excited to try, or share your success stories if you've already had triumphs with any of these natural weed warriors. Your experiences inspire the entire community and help fellow gardeners discover new strategies. If you found this guide helpful, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for weekly gardening videos packed with practical advice. Hit the bell icon so you're notified the moment we publish new content on companion planting, soil health boosters, seasonal pruning, and more. We've also got downloadable planting guides and exclusive checklists for subscribers. Just check the description below for links. Until next time, happy planting, and may your garden remain lush, vibrant, and virtually weed-free.